Every time the shadow ninjas show up in Jackie Chan adventures, you probably assume the same thing. Shendu snaps his fingers, and his army appears out of the dark to do his bidding.
Regrettably, Valmont, you did not provide me with the talismans. Jackie Chan did.
That is the story the show wants you to believe for 2 straight seasons, and it is the story most fans still believe today. It is not true. Shendu never actually owned a single Shadowkhan. Not one. He never built them, never earned them, and never had their loyalty for a single second. And by the end of this video, you are going to see exactly where that leash was really attached the entire time, and why it was never in his hand. If you want the rest of this franchise broken down the same way, evidence first, twist second, subscribe before we start pulling the thread, because this one goes further back than the show ever tells you directly, and it changes how you should watch every season that comes after it. Here is where we start, and you need the full picture before the twist makes sense. 900 years before the show even begins, Shendu is not a statue. He is an emperor. The demon sorcerer of fire rules over a vast empire in ancient China, and he does it using 12 stolen abilities pulled from the legendary ancestors of the Chinese zodiac. His own subjects eventually rebel. A warrior named Lo Pei casts a chi spell that rips those 12 powers out of Shendu's body, seals them into the talismans, and turns Shendu into a stone statue for the next 9 centuries. The talismans themselves are not just trophies either. Each one carries a distinct power tied to the zodiac ancestor it came from: reanimation, super strength, invisibility, speed, and so on, which is exactly why the Dark Hand spends the entire first season racing Jackie around the globe to collect them before Shendu can. Every talisman recovered is one more piece of the empire Shendu lost, and by the end of season 1, both sides have some, but neither side has all 12. That detail matters later, because it establishes early on that Shendu is a demon who is used to acquiring power he does not currently hold, one piece at a time, through whoever happens to be doing the collecting for him. So by the time season 1 starts, Shendu has no body, no empire, and no subjects. He is a rock sitting in a ruined palace outside Hong Kong, and yet, somehow, he still has soldiers. Silent ninjas made of pure shadow, appearing out of dark corners whenever the Dark Hand needs muscle, fighting on his behalf while he cannot even move. So the first question worth asking is the simplest one in the entire show. How does a statue command an army? The answer is a book. The Archive of Demon Magic, an ancient tome the show credits to the demon sorcerers themselves, reportedly written by that same family line generations earlier. Somewhere in its pages, Shendu found a method to summon and command an entire tribe of Shadowkhan, without ever putting on the mask that is actually supposed to control them. That mask belonged to an Oni general named Rairaku, and it had been sitting hidden in the ruins of Shendu's own palace for 900 years before he ever laid a claw on it. Think about what that actually means. Wearing an Oni mask is dangerous. It slowly corrupts whoever puts it on, until their own personality gets buried underneath the demon sealed inside. Shendu, being smart enough to know that even a demon sorcerer is not immune to that kind of corruption, never risks it. He reads around the problem instead. He finds a technicality in the archive that lets him command Rairaku's Ninjakan remotely, safely, without ever touching the mask itself. That is point 1, and it already tells you something important. Shendu did not create the Shadowkhan. He did not defeat them. He found a workaround to borrow somebody else's soldiers, and he was careful enough to do it from a safe distance, because even he understood he was not actually in charge of what he was using. But here is the part that should bother you immediately, and the show never slows down to explain it. If the mask belongs to someone named Rairaku, and Shendu is just reading a loophole out of somebody else's book, then the real question stops being about how Shendu controls them. It becomes about who Rairaku actually is, and why a demon powerful enough to need his own mask and his own tribe of ninjas was already sealed away and forgotten before Shendu even had an empire to lose. Rairaku is not a demon sorcerer. He shares no bloodline with Shendu, no origin, and no connection to China at all. He is an Oni, a horned demon general straight out of Japanese folklore, and he is only one of 10. Long before Shendu ever ruled an empire, the Oni were already ravaging ancient Japan with their own army of Shadowkhan. 9 separate tribes, each built around a different battlefield specialty. Ninja for infiltration, Razor for close combat, Bat for reconnaissance, Sumo for brute force, Samurai for command, Squid, Crab, and Mini for the kind of situational chaos a full-scale invasion needs, and Mantis, which answers to a general most casual fans never even learn the name of. They were eventually defeated, and this is the detail that matters most. They were not beaten by Shendu's family. They were not beaten by anyone connected to the talismans, the Chinese zodiac, or Lo Pei's rebellion at all. They were beaten by a separate group entirely. Good chi wizards working in ancient Japan, on their own timeline, dealing with their own apocalypse. Once defeated, the 9 Oni generals had their souls sealed inside 9 individual masks, locked away so they could never rise to lead an invasion again. And the theory among people who track this stuff closely is that the Oni are likely older than the demon sorcerers themselves, an empire that had already risen and already fallen before Shendu's family history even starts. That is point 2, and it completely reframes point 1. Shendu did not invent an army out of nothing. He found somebody else's already defeated, already imprisoned soldiers, and figured out how to make them answer to him from a distance, using a manual he did not write, for a war he was never part of. Which raises the one question the show spends 4 entire seasons circling without ever saying out loud in a single sentence. If the Oni already had a king, and an entire command structure, before Shendu was even born, where was that king, while Shendu was quietly running the operation? He never left, he was just still sealed, the exact same way Shendu was still a statue.
Bow before Tarakudo, King of all Shadowkhan, Lord of all Oni.
Tarakudo, Lord of all Oni and King of the Shadowkhan, spent the same 900 years locked away that Shendu spent frozen in stone. Different prison, same span of time, same silence. And this is where the show quietly hands you the answer without ever spelling it out in plain language. The Shadowkhan were never loyal to Shendu, because Shadowkhan are not built to be loyal to anyone in the first place. Watch how they actually behave whenever they appear on screen. They never speak, they never negotiate. They act only on the will of whoever is currently giving the order, and if that order stops coming, or gets interrupted, they do not improvise. They simply continue following the last clear instruction they were given, which is exactly why Jackie's side keeps finding ways to trick or redirect them throughout the show. That is not devotion. That is a command structure with the trust surgically removed. Even the corruption tied to the masks proves the point. Whoever wears one gets slowly overtaken by the Oni sealed inside. Personality replaced piece by piece, which is a fate the show treats as a punishment, not a reward. The only person who avoids it entirely is Finn. And only by pure accident, because the mask ends up placed on him incorrectly instead of properly worn. Even the writers seem to know these masks were never meant to be handed out casually, which is why nobody in the Dark Hand ever willingly puts one on more than once. Shendu was never their master. He was the only one issuing instructions while the actual king was still locked in a box he had nothing to do with sealing. And it is not just their behavior that gives this away. It is the actual magic running underneath them. Every Shadowkhan, regardless of which tribe it belongs to, moves using something called shadow magic, a power that lets them emerge from darkness, vanish back into it, and travel through the shadow realm itself. That is not chi magic, and it is not anything connected to the talismans, Lopez's spell, or the zodiac powers Shendu spent his empire built around. It is its own separate system, older, and completely disconnected from everything Shendu actually understands. He can command it through the archive, but he cannot generate it, shape it, or improve it, because it was never his kind of magic to begin with. He is operating machinery built by someone else, using an instruction manual written in a language he learned secondhand. That disconnect is also exactly why the Shadowkhan have a specific weakness the show keeps circling back to. They can be dispersed by sufficiently powerful physical strikes, and they are notably vulnerable to certain chi-based techniques that can banish or destroy them almost instantly. If Shendu had actually built this army himself, out of his own magic, you would expect their weaknesses to line up with his strengths. They do not. The vulnerabilities baked into the Shadowkhan belong to whoever originally sealed them away in ancient Japan, not to anything Shendu ever contributed. Even the cracks in the armor are borrowed. So watch what happens the moment that changes. Daolan Wang, a completely separate villain with no connection to Shendu's bloodline, tries to summon Shadowkhan of his own while sitting behind bars. In the process, he accidentally cracks the seal, holding Tarakudo in place. And the instant the real king is loose, the entire hierarchy snaps back into position like it was never actually broken to begin with. The Oni generals, Ikazuki, Murasaki, and the rest start getting freed one mask at a time. The Shadowkhan tribes start answering to their actual chain of command the moment it becomes available again. By the time all 9 Oni masks eventually get pieced back together, every single general and every single tribe breaks free at once. And for the first and only time in the show, the Shadowkhan display something that actually looks like unified purpose, because they are finally being commanded by the structure that created them, instead of a demon who happened to find a manual. Shendu is not even in the room for most of it, because Shendu was never part of that chain of command. He was a middle manager reading instructions out of a stolen manual for exactly as long as the real management happened to be sitting in a locked box on the other side of the world. Here is the part worth sitting with, because it recontextualizes every single Shadowkhan scene in the first 2 seasons. This is not a plot hole. The show plants every piece of it on purpose, season by season, and simply never says the sentence out loud. Shendu's control was always temporary, because it was never his to begin with. He borrowed a book he did not write, He borrowed a mask he was too careful to wear. He borrowed an army that had already been conquered, sealed, and forgotten by someone else. Centuries before he was ever powerful enough to conquer anyone himself. The moment the real king came back, none of that borrowed power meant anything at all. Not the strategy, not the tactics, not the years of quiet planning. The entire empire Shendu appeared to command for 2 seasons evaporated the second its actual owner woke up, because it was never an empire in the first place. It was a lease with an expiration date Shendu never bothered to read. And the show is not even finished making this point once Shendu is gone. Daolan Wang spends an entire season trying to do the exact same thing Shendu did. Reach for power that was already sealed away by someone else, only to accidentally hand the keys to Tarakudo instead of keeping them for himself. 2 different villains, 2 different seasons, and the exact same mistake. Both of them treated somebody else's locked door as a resource instead of a warning, and both of them found out that the thing waiting behind that door was never going to recognize them as its master, no matter how convincing the manual made it look in the moment. So the next time you watch a wave of Shadowkhan pour out of a shadow to fight for the demon sorcerer of fire, remember what you are actually looking at. That is not his army. That has never been his army. It is someone else's empire. On a 900-year lease, Shendu never actually signed, run entirely on borrowed authority that could be revoked the moment its real owner opened his eyes. If you want the next one, the video breaking down exactly why Valmont was always going to lose control of the Dark Hand from episode 1, using this exact same pattern of borrowed power that was never really his, it is right there. Go watch it.